Okay, I mentioned this idea of Ben Carson being used as a sort of prop, as a black guy in the Trump campaign, because Trump is rallying hard to try to get up above 0% favorability with the black vote. And Chris Wallace from Fox News Sunday, every once in a while, Chris Wallace will actually ask a pretty good question. And he had Ben Carson on. And in this case, the question was, do you feel that you're being used as a prop because of your race to help Donald Trump pander to black voters in the midst of what is a disastrous situation for Donald Trump, where his favorability in a recent PPP poll among black voters was not even high enough to register 1%. So Chris Wallace asks Ben Carson about this. Some people believe that the question itself was very, very offensive and racist. We'll talk about that, but first I want to play the clip for you.
Question, do you know
what I would say?
Do you worry that you're being used as a prop for black voters and that supporting Donald Trump will end up hurting your credibility in the black community?
Me. It's a long time ago. It's not about me. It's about our nation. But I would suggest, Chris, go back and look at the 1995 State of the Union address by Bill Clinton and see what he said. He said, illegal aliens are creating big problems for us, and we're going to put a lot more Border Patrol people on and secure our borders, and we're not going to have people able to work who come in illegally, and we're going to cut off their welfare benefits, and we're going to deport people in record numbers. You know, he says basically the same thing, but when he says it, wow, great standing ovation, this is a great president. And when Trump says it, it's hate speech.
Yeah. Are you being used as a prop to pander to black voters? Do you have any idea what Bill Clinton said about immigration during the 1995 State of the Union address? This is, sometimes I praise politicians for pivoting really well, and you have to throw in phrases like, that's a really great question. And at the heart of this issue is, insert completely unrelated issue, right? That's like one way in which skilled politicians know how to pivot away. Ben Carson not hiding the pivot, saying, well, let's talk about the 1995 State of the Union address. Not that what he's talking about is illegitimate, because we've actually seen Trump's rhetoric has been very extreme on that issue, but really many Republicans and Democrats have relatively similar positions on that. But Carson just failing to pivot in any kind of credible way here, didn't he?
Yeah, what does he have to lose here? His luggage, maybe? Who knows? He could use anything, and I kind of like this guy now. I have a small place in my heart for him with his dodgy ways.
I find him incredibly entertaining and an absolute disaster as the potential leader of the free world. So here's the issue I want to really dig into. I got some emails from people who said, David, it's insulting to ask Ben Carson if he's being used as a prop to pander to black voters, because the question implies that he would potentially even allow himself to be used as a prop, which is very insulting. Would a white person ever be asked, are you being used to pander to white voters? Listen, if you have a black candidate in a completely white district, and every single one of the people that are tagging along with you are white, I think it would be perfectly legitimate, and it should be asked to the white supporters, are you being pulled in here because this is a black candidate who's struggling in a white district? I don't think that there would be a double standard in that. That's number one. But let me actually go further than that. Donald Trump is polling 0% favorability with black voters, and he goes to Detroit with Ben Carson and Omarosa, okay, to a black church and dances. I think if anyone didn't ask whether these were campaign props, they would not be doing their job. I find nothing offensive about the question, and I think it is the exact right question for Chris Wallace to be asking here, because this is obvious pandering.
Yeah, too obvious. They have the chance to actually, once again, hit this out of the park, and he doesn't dance, he doesn't sing, he loses his luggage, he talks about Bill Clinton. There's just nothing to it.
Donald Trump had 3 black people with him on this trip who apparently love him. Well, I don't know if Katrina Pearson was on the trip, but she was, running interference as far as PR goes. Katrina Pearson, Omarosa, and Ben Carson. Thus, obviously, black Americans would just do fantastic under Trump. They would finally win again. I don't know who you're going to convince with this nonsense. And what's great is the polls are actually reflecting that. And what I really find to be the bigotry that we hear is the right will often say, you know, Democrats are so bigoted towards black people because they just assume they'll have the black vote. Actually, that's not true. It's very, very clear that black voters are paying attention to what different candidates are saying. The obvious pandering that should work if black voters are so liable to be influenced by pandering, then you would actually see Trump's numbers with black voters improving based on the pandering, and it's not happened. So they're actually, like most groups that we look at, whether it's Latino voters, whether it's women who also are absolutely horrified of Trump, although not to the same degree as black people, these groups are actually paying attention. And I think that's the biggest thing that we are learning from the Trump pander fest to Detroit, Michigan.